Hello, everyone, and welcome to Be Here, another episode of Odd Virginia. My name is Alex Koska, and I'll be your host for the show. And I have a special guest today. You may remember him from the Route 29 Stalker episode. A very special guest, name of Bill. Bill, how are you doing?
Dude, I'm just so happy to be back here again, man. I love my Odd Virginia family. Hey, everybody, how you all doing?
They said they're doing good. It's good to see you, man. So what have you been up to since last episode? Any sort of life updates you like to give everyone? Just how have things been in general, really?
Life's getting back to whatever normal is going to be for this crazy world. I've started painting again, which is really awesome, and started doing a lot of my own art, and all of a sudden just started selling art and everything. If anyone would like to check it out, it's Dozer's Cosmic Creations. You can find that on Facebook or Instagram. I do pour art and like cosmic pours, so everything's looking all crazy. I just started getting really inspired by all these Webb telescope photos. I started doing all these cosmic pours, and all of a sudden everything just went crazy. So life's been good though, man. Get ready to even have my first art display. It'll probably happen after this episode airs. It's going to be at Restless Moon in Harrisonburg. On August 6th. If anyone wants to come check it out, come check out my art. It'll be there all month of August.
Oh, that is incredible. So there are a couple of things, Bill, that have happened to me recently, and I wasn't really planning on including this in this episode, but I don't know when else I'll be able to tell this to the audience. So I'm gonna let you know a couple of weird things that have happened to me recently and get your thoughts on them. Okay?
Absolutely.
So I drive around for a package delivery company, and I deliver to farmhouses in the countryside. So I get to see a lot of wildlife. And recently, last week or two, I've seen so many things that I've never seen before in my life, and it almost feels kind of synchronistic. I'm not saying that it is, but it's just weird. So first thing I saw, an eagle, about 15 feet away, and an eagle's nothing too terribly supernatural. And I'm not saying that it is, but it's just cool to see an eagle. It's probably the second time in my life I've seen one.
So big in person.
This one wasn't really huge, honestly. It was a smaller eagle, but it was picking up some roadkill and flying off with it.
I almost hit one with the Hyundai back in West Virginia up by my family's property.
Good thing you didn't.
Yeah, no, dude, that wingspan was as wide as my car. It was freaking huge.
Wow.
No. All right. Well, either way, eagles are super cool. I don't care what size they are.
Yeah, freedom.
America.
But yeah, this one was about the size of a hawk, and that's not even the weirdest, not even close to the weirdest thing I've seen in the past 2 weeks. Number one, I saw a white squirrel, which to me, I didn't know such a thing existed. I know about albinism in animals, and I know it's very rare, but what I saw was not an albino, because it didn't have red eyes, right? And it wasn't purely white. It was mostly white with a bit of gray patches on the back. So it was a gray squirrel with some sort of deformity. I think it's called morphism. And that to me was neat.
That's wild too.
Yeah, and then about a couple days to a week later, I saw a black fox. And I think it was a black fox. And I know there is a melanistic trait in foxes, so it's possible to see a black fox. Also another very rare thing. And to see both of those things, or even all three of those things, the eagle, the squirrel, and the fox, in the span of a week or two, really weird to me. But I'm not entirely sure it was a fox. I just think so because it was about the size of a fox. I saw its hind legs and its tail slipping off into the bush, and it really slinked off because I was like, what the hell was that? And I tried to get up right where it was and look at it, and I could sort of see the shadow moving through the scrub and the foliage, and then it just sort of vanished. So I'm pretty sure it was a fox. I don't know what else it could have been.
Well, but you said it was about fox size?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a larger fox size. You'd see an adult red fox. It was about that size.
Okay. Well, I've seen some pretty dark ones. I've never seen I've seen black squirrels. It was jet black, head to toe black squirrels.
Well, that's really extremely rare too.
Yeah, no, there's a whole family of them that were up, not on the property I have now, but the family farm that we lost back when I was just out of high school and stuff. 250 acres that bump up next to the property I have. on that farm, we had like an apple orchard, and in that orchard, there was like a family of probably like that squirrel chain was probably like 15, 20 just jet black squirrels. I'd never seen anything like that, but it was, I guess, just that one that one male must have been a popular guy. I don't know, something with that genetic trait, or
yeah, it must have been a dominant gene in that case, because that's unheard of.
Yeah, it was crazy. A buddy of mine got one and had it mounted. He took one down and got it mounted.
Got it taxidermied.
Yeah, it was. Dude, I love weird taxidermy. It's the one like thing that I haven't dove head over heels into, because good God, you've seen my house. There's not enough room to just start having weird crap mounted or sitting on shelves on top of all the other weird crap I already have sitting everywhere.
Honestly, that sounds like a collection I could get into, but at the same time, why would I? I've got enough stuff. I've got too much stuff. I think most people can relate to having too much stuff. This is a consumer culture.
That's right. You need to get rid of all that hip hop vinyl, and I'll get rid of my Sega Genesis games, and we'll just get rid of them together to each other.
And if you had come to the studio today, that would have happened. But it's okay. There's always next time.
Yes.
The whole idea of seeing these weird or unusual animals, rather, back to back to back, really had me wondering what the significance of them could have been, if maybe the universe was showing me some sort of sign. So I looked it up online, and the only thing I could find was something for the white squirrel. And only one website really had anything for it. And I've got to take this with a pinch, maybe even a teaspoon of salt, because the website is called angelicalbalance.com, which sounds pretty hokey, new agey, not something I'd really give much credence to. But what I read there really warmed my heart. And it said that when you see a white squirrel, this is a deceased loved one coming to visit you. That really gripped me in a certain way. It also had another 9 different meanings. I'm not going to go over all of them, but that was the first one. And just thinking, like, somebody who I loved really dearly died this year, whether it's true or not, that really did warm my heart. And then I also looked at the rest of the website just to see what it was about. And they have an application where you can message your guardian angel personally online. And I was like, okay, this is full of crap.
Sounds like the most legit that you could do.
Right. They have like tarot readings and private message your guardian angel. Anyway, tonight we're going to be getting into a topic that I've wanted to get into for a very long time, which is superstition and witchcraft in Appalachia. And Bill, you personally have a bit of family history going back into Appalachia, don't you?
Oh, yes. So, man, my family has... So I know we're Virginia, but if you go back far enough, West Virginia was Virginia too.
I call it Old Virginia.
Yeah, Old Virginia. We were some of the original, like going back to like pre-Revolutionary War time settlers.
Oh wow!
Back around Lost River and Matthias area, the two scenes on the Funkhausers. Yeah,
that far back.
A lot of Germanic descent. The Funkhausers were descendants of bear hunters in the Alps, and I can't remember how the Germanic pronunciation of Funkhauser is, but it meant like something like bear hunter, bear, something like that. And then the Tusines, my grandmother, my great grandfather Bill Tusine married Sarah Funkhauser, so it brought like the two big families.
Yeah, I've
together back there.
Met a lot of Funkhausers here in this area. And we're not even in the Appalachians right now. I mean, I'm in the valley. And there's a good number of Funkhausers down here. And I've always thought it was funny because Funkhauser, to me, kind of brings up sentiments of electronic dance music, funk house.
Yeah. Yeah, man. But no, so... I like it, the funk in the house.
So Funkhauser goes way back before the electronic dance music genre.
Maybe they originated it. You never know.
They could have.
It could be the great myth of the funk and house music of the Northern Appalachia or Western Appalachia.
Oh,
that's going to be the next episode.
I wish. Yeah, we're gonna go deep into that conspiracy theory on next episode of Odd Virginia. Everybody, you watch out. But yeah, man, we're about to get into it. So let's get into the origins of the Appalachian peoples. Cue transition. All right. So the Appalachian region was really heavily populated by the Europeans back in the 1700s. But before that, in the 1600s, we had people settling in New England and in Virginia primarily. In New England, we had the Puritans, and in Virginia, we had the planters, who were a kind of an aristocratic society, whereas in New England, we had more of the a kind of an orthodox Christian society. But then we had these people coming in who really didn't fit the bill for either, and they were kind of landing in Virginia and moving into the mountains. The Appalachian Mountains apparently are the oldest mountain region in the world, according to what I've heard. It may or may not be true, but that's what I've heard from the recent research I've done. And the people who were coming over first were the people from England, Wales, Scotland, and Ireland. And these are a group of people that are commonly referred to as the borderers. And they all came from the hills between these countries. A lot of them were loyalists to King William, Billy. And so people from the hills who were loyalists to Billy, they called them hillbillies. And that's exactly where we get that word from now. And these people all came and settled in the Appalachian region, starting in Virginia, also West Virginia now, and North Carolina, and sort of spread down to Georgia and up northwards into Pennsylvania. Especially when the Germans started coming over, they were really settling Pennsylvania heavily. And we also had a couple of Nordic countries coming in, Finland, Norway, Sweden, also settling that kind of region. But before they got there, we had the Cherokee. And as far as anthropologists have estimated, the Cherokee were there basically since the last ice age, about 11,000 years ago. Or at least, Native American tribes might have not have been the Cherokee specifically, but the Cherokee were predominant there in the Appalachian region. And it makes a lot of sense that the Europeans bringing over their Christianity had really good relationships with the Cherokee and mixed well with them.
I was going to say, that's kind of the Cherokee were the main formation, like the roadmap for Appalachia. Like
certainly
the main between Virginia and North Carolina, that section of the Blue Ridge Mountains, it consisted of more than 50 Cherokee towns and settlements. They were all connected by a trail of foot trails.
Quite a bit, yeah.
Which later became wagon roads they built on top of it. Even some Cherokee companies got into building the wagons.
Yeah, I was going to say the Cherokee actually widened those roads for the new settlers as they brought over their horses and their wagons. The Cherokee made those roads possible. But the Cherokee melded well with the Christian settlers for a very good reason, because the Cherokee were also sort of a monotheistic society. They believed in the great creator who gave them their spiritual power, which allowed them to use herbs and do sorts of spiritual healing, which really well coincides with sort of Christian beliefs on healing. And so it makes a lot of sense as to why in Puritan New England, people were having this great inquisition against witches.
We have found the witch, may we burn her?
And in Appalachian society, they were sort of incorporating witchcraft into Christianity. It was totally different. And a lot of that has to do with Cherokee beliefs and the things that they taught the settlers. Herbal witchcraft, which in a sense isn't even really witchcraft. It's more of like a medicine. But they also had this belief in healing powers through spirituality. And then on top of that, a lot of the settlers brought with them Africans, some of them free, some of them slaves. And there was a point in time where about 10% of the population of Appalachia was Black Africans. So there was a huge racial melting pot going on in this region. And we'll see a lot of that in the superstition and witchcraft of the 17 and 1800s. So that's basically all I wanted to cover as far as the history goes, just to lay sort of a foundation. But after a while, I mean, all these different tribes and races sort of integrated. But after a while, they did end up marching the Cherokee out with a trail of tears. And a lot of remnants and vestiges of the Cherokee people still do exist within the Appalachian region, who sort of mingled and mixed with the Scots-Irish and the Welsh and the Germans. So you will look at some of these people and say, well, there's definitely some Indian blood in that person. And trust me, there's a lot of that still there.
Yeah, and then, then you gotta even look at it after that. Like Appalachia form their own like superheroes. It's kind of crazy, but I mean, some of the first big like American story people, you got like Daniel Boone, you got Davy Crockett, Johnny Appleseed, and John Henry. All those were birthed out of Appalachia. And then they used to tell jack tales too, and like Old English jack tales and Appalachia jack tales kind of blended together. But like jack tales, there was always like the main character's name was Jack. And like in England, things they were kind of lazy and elfish, like Jack, and came to like Jack and the Beanstalk. Jack Frost is a jack tale. Where then, weirdly enough, when it started to come over, like Jack became more of a cool person and like started becoming like the sheriff of the town and stuff like that. But like old Jack tales were something that kind of just went along for a long time. Just storytelling in general, between its music, dime novels, and then also the birth of America's first true brand of music, bluegrass, was just a way of telling stories to music.
And the Appalachian region is really like the origin of Americana as it is, as we all know it today.
And like the core of Appalachia is like the Virginia, West Virginia, and North Carolina. But it can, like you were saying, it goes all the way down to now Appalachia. If you like look it up online, it's once the Germanic people started really joining in with the Scotch Irish, it kind of just expanded all the way up through like Pennsylvania into the southern New York, all the way down to Georgia, like saying too. It's just a like you said, a crazy melting pot where like now where you think about Appalachia, you think of like racism and everything, but the core of Appalachia was it being a melting pot.
Yeah, it really was just a huge wine mixer.
Yeah. Between like because that's part of the reason why West Virginia left was because they didn't want any stake in the Civil War one way or the other. But there was a lot of African and Caribbean descent cultures getting mixed in with Appalachia, which is where like watermelon and like bringing peanuts to Appalachia cuisine and like sweet potatoes and like black eyed peas and sorghum cane. All those things were African and Caribbean. But they all got mixed in, and now you think about those foods; those are like that, and like cornbread, and like and like collard greens and stuff. A lot of core Appalachia foods have a lot of African descent to it.
So, Bill, being a mountain man yourself, or descendant from mountain man,
yes,
I have got a little bit of a game for you to see just how well you stand up. And before we even start playing the game, I want to check your pronunciation.
Okay.
So, if you're from Appalachia and you want to say I'm tired, how would you say that?
So, how I would personally say it, or how they say it in Appalachia?
How they would say it in Appalachia. I am tired.
I'm tired.
Okay. What is the
or
rubber?
I'm whooped.
I'm whooped.
Is another
okay.
Good. I'm whooped.
What is the rubber part on your car? What is that called?
Tire.
And if you have come to the end of your career, how would you call that?
I guess retired. I don't know. That one just the vowels get stretched out a little bit longer. It's really
I tried to get you. I tried to get you with that one. I'm sorry. I think you played it just right. You didn't admit to anything. All right, so here's the quiz. I have got 25 different words or phrases, and I want you to tell me what they mean, okay?
Oh, all right. This should be good.
All right, so number 1, what is a blind house?
Oh, that's a house with no windows.
That's exactly right. What is a booger?
I mean, a booger is... It can have a couple different things.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a phrase for Bigfoot. Is slang for Bigfoot. Is the one that I can think of off the top.
That's absolutely correct. This is where the word boogeyman comes from, and it could be anything spooky, really.
Yeah.
Some sort of spooky thing. Next one, boomer.
Man, that's a squirrel, but it's a red squirrel. Red squirrel.
That's absolutely right. A red squirrel, a wharf rat, or here's the curveball. It could also be an attractive woman.
Oh, I didn't know.
Number 4, foxfire.
I don't know that one. It sounds familiar, but I can't remember what that one. Foxfire. I don't know.
All right, your first wrong answer. This is something that glows in the dark or is luminescent, usually indicating mushrooms or something like that. Something's gommed up. What does that mean?
Oh, gommed up. That's all messed up, man.
Yep.
That's where that's where the phrase "gummed up" came from. They took the long A out of it. No,
that's absolutely correct. And a lot of English or American language does come from this region.
Well, it's really weird too, because I read this whole big long article on how the accent of Appalachia, America, came from. And it's these hard R's from Scotch Irish and these long vowels from English and all these different and Germanic influence, because it is the full melting pot like you were talking about.
Number 6. What is a holler?
Oh, that's a little valley.
Correct.
Like Clint's families from Strawderman Holler, back in Lost River area.
Number 7. What is a jag?
Jag. I don't know that one.
A jag is a little bit. A small amount.
Oh, okay.
What are leather breeches?
Oh man, those are dry green beans.
Damn right, dude. Great.
Yeah. Oh man, no, the Mennonites around here, man. When we first moved here, my family, my great uncle was one of the deacons of a little Mennonite church back in Singer's Glen, and my family went to it for a while. And they always had leather breeches hanging up on their porches. They'd string up the bean. What is it? You take a needle and thread, you string up the beans, you hang them to dry, and then you can make soup with them and stuff and rehydrate them later.
All right, the next one is a verb. Lick.
So the verb. Oh, all right. We're using it as a verb. Lick is a stretch of land, also, but you use it as a verb means you're gonna hit somebody, you're gonna smack someone.
Yeah, it's a spanking.
He really licked him. Yeah. I'm gonna give you a licking.
What's a tater hole?
Oh, that's just. All right. This is. I feel like I'm showing my hillbilly here. Just like a root cellar.
Yeah, it's a cold cellar. What's a wish book?
Wish book. Oh man. That's what they would call the Sears catalog.
Yeah, it's a mail order catalog. Hell yeah.
Because they just look at the photos and wish they had half their shit.
Yeah, they don't have no money up there.
That's like the Depression era slang.
Yeah, it's all trade and service in the Appalachians, going back into the 1900s. This is an easy one. What's a varmint?
Oh, like a rodent, little wild animals, you can call coons or a squirrel or a groundhog, small little pesky animal.
Easy. What's a mater?
Tomato.
What's a backer?
Tobacco.
Yeah. What is a goozler?
What?
Goozler. Or goozle. The goozler is the funny thing in the back of your throat, your uvula.
No, I'd never heard that one before.
All right, here's another one. If I were to say howdy, what does that mean?
Hello.
Yeah. What is a mite?
What is a mite? Oh man. Mite. I don't know that one.
A mite is just a small amount of time, a little while.
Okay.
What is Saturday?
It's Saturday.
Yeah, the day after Friday.
Yeah.
What is a story in Appalachian terms?
What's a story?
Mm-hmm.
I don't like a tale. Like telling a tale to somebody.
Yeah, if I said don't tell me no stories, what does that mean exactly?
Oh, don't tell me no lies.
Exactly.
Okay.
What is side-goggling?
Side eye, like looking at side-eyeing somebody?
Not that I've heard. No, that doesn't quite match up.
No, I don't know that. That was just a guess. I'd never heard of side-goggling.
Side-goggling means that something is lopsided, such as a building or a chimney.
Huh, okay.
Not quite built right. What does it mean if I were to say it's Irish?
It's Irish.
Nope.
No?
Irish? It means
I have it in a sentence.
It means weather today is kind of Irish.
Is it what? Just windy?
Chilly and windy.
Okay.
Chilly or windy, rather. And if you were to ask me to do something and I said I don't care to, what does that mean?
No, you don't want to.
Absolutely the opposite. It means I don't mind to do that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't care to means I don't mind.
Oh, okay.
All right, out of 25, you've hit 18. So I'm going to give you a bonus round. For all the glory, what is a mushmelon?
A mushmelon?
Mm-hmm.
Ah, man, I don't know.
I'll give you one guess.
I mean, is it a marshmallow? I mean, a mushroom?
Nope. It is a cantaloupe.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Well, Bill, you did a lot better on that test than I would have ever done. So I think you have proved your status as a true hillbilly. And being named Bill, I think that's appropriate.
That's right.
You don't necessarily live in Appalachia, and you haven't spent your entire life in Appalachia, but you've spent a lot of time there and have seen some things of your own, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't lived in Appalachia, but I've been going up into the mountains of like West Virginia, where my family homestead is, since before I could walk. Slept in the family crib in the old family house that's been there, that was bought out of a Sears catalog when the original family house burned down back in the 20s.
The old wish book.
Yeah, the old wish book. You know what that Sears catalog was for? Also,
what?
That's what they use for toilet paper.
That's disgusting.
I'm sure it's probably more
Dude,
worthwhile as it.
No, before there was toilet paper, you had the newspaper, you had the Sears book, and you had boiled corn cobs.
Really?
Yes.
Learn something every day. You mean there's no bidet?
No, my family had a 2-seater outhouse. One had a porcelain seat. One hole had a porcelain seat, and one of them had a wooden hole. Because there was 8 kids and 2 adults, and at one time my great grandfather lived there too. So you had 12 people living in a house. So you had a 2-seater Johnny house.
Oh my god! Just imagine what it'd be like to be taking a crap next to your sister or brother,
and
dad.
a lavender bush planted beside it, so it had its own natural air freshener.
Hey, no, that's a very good idea. That's a very good idea.
And a white groundhog that lived underneath of it, and that's no lie either. I mean, my dad would joke that the damn thing would probably glow in the dark. It's the biggest damn groundhog, and it lived underneath a Johnny house. And that Johnny house was used until mid-2000s.
And what was the groundhog's name?
Not Lucky. I don't know. We didn't name him.
I would call him Johnny.
That's 100% fair.
And the time that you spent in Appalachia, you've told me some tales of things that are a little bit off the wall. And we've been waiting for a time that you could share these things on the show. Do you want to get us started on some of those things?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So funnily enough, 2 of them have just happened within like the last year and a half. So I have property up above Lost River State Park. Lost River State Park is probably about an hour away from Harrisonburg, Virginia, about 2 hours away from Washington, D.C., with the new highways that they've built, 2.5 hours, depending on traffic. So if you were to draw a straight line across, it's almost straight across from like Strasburg. But there's like a mountain in between the two of them. So you have to go through a couple of passes. So it takes a little while, which is what this highway fixed. But anyway, my property's up top, up near where the geological marker is on Helmick Rock. So if you want to try to Google up there, I'm not going to get any more descriptive than that. But my property, the family at one point had the entire, like literally, we're talking almost the entire mountain of Branch Mountain, starting on each side of Helmick Road. Oh God, what's the I can't remember the other road. But anyway, you go up the road through Lost River State Park, and about a mile past outside of State Park started my property on the base of the mountain. And you go all the way across, and you go to the fork where Helmick Rock is. You start going down, and it went all the way back down to the end of the mountain. So that mountain was family one way or the other, between cousins, aunts, uncles, and some by marriage and stuff like that. But my family property is the old Two-Scene Farm, which was the Cook place. Before it was the Cook place, it was actually owned by President William Harrison, and it was actually part of some of the original area in West Virginia, Greater Appalachia, that was surveyed by George Washington. He actually was this original surveyor of my family property, so I can trace back my family property pretty far, even way before it was even in my family's time. But let's see here. This was about a year and a half, 2 years ago. Yeah, it was hardcore COVID. It was 2 years ago. But me and my friend Clint, funnily enough, Clint's always around for these fun stories. We went up to my property. I just wanted to. We were cutting some wood because we have some lumber that we had taken from trees off the property. And I said, "Hey, I want to drive down because my property starts at the top of the mountain, and actually the way it's angled and everything goes almost all the way down to the bottom." I said, "I just want to go check out some of the apple tree fields real quick." So let's go down there, and we'll head down. And I was like, "Oh, let me grab the chainsaw. Oh, there isn't one. Oh, whatever, we'll be fine. I'm in the Bronco." We get halfway down this crazy steep hill, and there's a tree across, and it's a big ass old walnut tree that blew over in a bad storm, and it's like 87, 90 degrees outside, humid as hell. And I'm like, oh my God. And so we're trying to do everything we can. I go to saw it because I had some of my gear in my Bronco, and I broke out my collapsible bow saw. I'm sawing, it gets stuck. Crap. So now I have to go mountain man style, and I break out my axe. I got this big, beautiful German axe, and I'm chopping, but I can't go full force. But I'm chopping, and I'm chopping. All of a sudden, I stop to wipe my face because I'm just sweating like a hog. I mean, I'm a big guy for people on this that listen to this. I ain't heard this. I'm like 350 pounds on a good day, and I'm just chopping the hell out of this tree, and it's hot as hell. And I don't know what it is about my mountain blood, but like my dad's like this. My grandparents were like my grandmother and some of my uncles. We all just sweat like hogs in the summer. I don't know what it is, but it's the worst trait to have. So I'm swiping my face, and when I did that, I hear knocking. And I was like, what in the hell is that? And so I go to chop, and I chop, and then there's a knock. And I chop, and there's a knock. And I'm like, what in the hell? And so hold on. And so I take a big stick, and I just smack this tree, like 4 times. Boom, 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 boom. And then there's a 30-second delay, and it's not an echo, and you hear boom, 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 just sound like a stick hitting a tree. So that's normally a sign of old wood booger.
That's definitely right.
Yeah, knocking and repeat knocking, like almost echo knocking, is a big old sign of Bigfoot. And that's the weirdest thing I've ever experienced up on the property up home. And I was like, Clint, that's a sign of that's maybe just someone being stupid, but that's definitely a sign of Bigfoot. And the people that hunt on the property that's beside my property weren't there. So I don't know, it's not like a small piece of property. It's not like, oh, my next door neighbor. It's 250 acres. And I was pretty damn near in the middle of it, where this happened. So it's not like, oh yeah, your neighbor next door heard you just trying to mess with you. Something was out there, and something heard it, and something mimicked me.
Yeah, there is the idea that people will go out knocking, and other Bigfoot researchers will be knocking back in response. But this you're right. This is pretty far out and very unlikely that there would be anyone else out there to respond to you, any other humans, I guess you could say. But have you ever had any other sort of inclination that there were Sasquatch or Bigfoot on the property?
Nothing that I would have thought of right like when it happened. I was like, oh, this is really weird. This is not like a bear or something. But like so you can go up on Lost River State Park and you can book like tents, like my big tent that we went camping in, like outfitter tents, glamping style bell tents. You can rent those up there. And it never made sense to me because whenever we put up a hunting blind or anything, and I mean, it is on the complete other side of the mountain almost, but like whenever you go to put up any hunting blinds or anything, whenever we put anything that was like a fabric, like pop-up hunting blind or anything on the property, and yes, I do hunt when I have time. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. If you do like it, hell yeah. But deer meat's delicious. I don't hunt for horns. I hunt for meat.
Quick aside, I just made deer neck jerky, and I was going to share it with you if you would have come over.
Oh my God. Oh, I've never had deer neck jerky, but I love deer meat all the way around.
Oh, it turned out really well. I marinated it in beer, salt, red pepper, and black pepper. And
my God. You've got to
really
save me some of that. I'll get down there here soon. I promise.
It's going to be gone tomorrow.
You son of a bitch. But yeah, no, I love game. It's a cleaner way of eating and living.
It is.
But anyway, anytime you put a hunting blind up, it would get torn up and smacked around and knocked down. And Dad's always like, that damn bear, there's damn bears, blah, blah. Man, let me tell you what. Now it's just like, it wasn't like there was really bear shit around or anything like that. Like, I wonder, maybe somebody doesn't like having things put up on the property, because you can't tell me there's not bear in Lost River State Park.
Well, I can tell you that, but it's not true.
Well, yeah. And like, I mean, that's where like my great-grandfather was born. In fact, my great-grandfather's birthplace is part of Lost River State Park on the Blue Ridge Trail. The old Two-Scene house is there. And there's a small little family cemetery too. And the highest point in West Virginia is there. Crony Point. I think I'm saying the name wrong, but it's like the highest point of West Virginia. And you can see like 3 counties in Virginia and 3 counties in West Virginia, all from that point. It's so damn high. Like you can see Page County, Rockingham County, Hardy County, Pendleton County, and some other county in West Virginia. And Shenandoah County in Virginia too. It's really crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Like Crony Point. But it's like one of the highest points in there, and it's like just perfect bear country. I mean, that's where. And my great-grandfather was a bear hunter. That's what he did. Other than have a ton of kids and have a little farm, Bill Two-Scene was good at 2 things. Somebody once told me it was making moonshine and hunting bear.
Well, sounds like the kind of guy I'd like to know.
Yeah,
from what I've heard, bear are pretty tasty. I've never tasted one myself.
So my family's been up there a long time. So sometimes you just got to wonder. It's like, all right, were some of these things that we blamed on bear, a wood booger? Like, was it like? Because I mean, there's hollows back there that, like, I mean, I've been going back there, and I can tell you almost every inch of my family property, and almost every inch of my current property. But there's parts in there that probably a human being hasn't stepped foot in probably like 20 years. Like just steep gullies and ravines and stuff like that. And like, who the hell knows what's in there? And Helmick Rock is nothing but oh man, this is well, we'll talk about Appalachian weird stuff anyway. There was a bank robbery in Virginia back during the Civil War, and the theory is that they hid the money. Well, it's not the theory. They found the map and everything, but like there's so many caves they can't make sense of it. Helmick Rock is nothing but caves. That's why there's so many bear up on Helmick Rock above my property. But apparently one of those caves is a ton of gold stolen from a Virginia bank by rebels. Or by bank robbers.
I'm going to be visiting soon.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, no. Didn't I send you that news article on it? They just did a news article because like the story's just getting real popular again. But like me and my dad have went up there a couple times on dirt. I mean, no, we haven't trespassed. Never mind. But anyway, but at some point back Civil War, a bunch of bank robbers hit a ton of gold up there. I think it's worth like I think they said it was be worth like about $1 million or maybe $500,000, $500,000 to $1 million in current day gold at current gold prices, worth of gold hidden up in the caves up there on in Helmet Rock. Now the other like 345 are either bear or rattlesnake dens. So yeah, look carefully, kids.
Well, dude, what they say is the prize is not the destination, but the journey. And I am totally willing to take that journey in that small chance that I could find the prize. That sounds like a lot of fun to me. I just need to take a week off. I'm going up there.
Well, what? I'll get you up there. I ain't gonna be poking around in all those caves. I ain't trying to meet wood booger or rattlesnakes or bear.
Oh, that sounds like all the things I want to see.
Oh, maybe Bigfoot. Bigfoot 2024. I'm voting for him. Right, man. But other weird things I've seen in the world of Appalachia is this took place about a year ago. Me and Clint again, funnily enough, went up Reddish Knob. There's always been some conversations about like a secret base or something, and other than everyone, maybe not everyone's heard of, but there was a secret base in at the Greenbrier in West Virginia. It turned out to be one of the world's largest underground bases, and that's for like 75 years. Was like if the East Coast was under attack, all the Congress, all the Senate, and like the Joint Chiefs of Staff, all of them are going to be stashed there. They had enough to have a complete underground city.
Oh, it's one of the dumbs.
Well, it's even in Fallout 76. They call it something else, but there's a bunker underneath this golf resort and everything. But is it the Greenbrier?
The normal name for these things is deep underground military bases, and we call them dumbs, DUMBs.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean that's generally the terminology, and I know it's silly, but that's literally what we call them.
Oh, okay. I thought you were just be like, no, I'm serious. Like, here's the stuff.
Yeah, it's called dumb.
Well, I'm called dumb right now for not knowing that, apparently. But anyway, but yeah, so there's always been a rumor. There's been like, I will tell you that on my property in Lost River, West Virginia, 150, 200 miles from friggin' anything, I have had fighter jets like buzz me in a field. This one isn't military, but there's a dude every hunting season that has an old World War II bomber that he drives through the valley along the valley along Lost River and everything over the mountains, like to the point that I've seen branches fall out of trees from the vibrations of these huge engines going and everything. Like the first time it happened, I freaked out. I'm like, what in the world is going on? But then I was hunting up in the big field up on the old family farm, and you saw some what is it, F-18s like going by, like burning up. I could have easily like thrown a football or a baseball and hit the damn jets. They were that low to the ground from like a tree, me being in a tree stand. Just
Wow.
Absolutely crazy. And they say that the quote unquote reasoning behind this is no one will ever say what airbase they came from, but they practice flying because like obviously not the physical terrain, like the trees and stuff like that, but the geographical terrain and like how the mountains and everything were laid out. It was a lot like Afghanistan, like the mountains of Afghanistan and everything, and so they would practice flying in mountains there.
I haven't heard of that reasoning, but I've definitely heard that they will train in such kinds of regions. Yeah.
Well, that's the reasoning that I always heard from the local authorities back there. So who knows if it's true or not or anything. But anyway, so we were back at Reddish Knob, which overlooks Rockingham County, Augusta County. You can look over and you can literally see Sugar Grove military base. or the former Sugar Grove military base. And then they also have their listening post over there, which is also in the game Fallout 76, the big satellite. So there's the Green Bank Observatory, but I don't think that's what I was thinking of. But there's also a radio listening post at Sugar Grove. Funnily enough, they always said that wasn't the case, but it is a big radio blackout area. It's also, if you fly the way the crow flies, it points directly at, like, if you're going up and down Interstate 81 through the Shenandoah Valley around Mount Jackson, you're going to see all these giant satellite dishes. And what that is the International Call Hub. So it was a listening post where they could listen in on all the international long distance calls going on. So now I think the Sugar Grove military base has been decommissioned at this point, if I remember correctly. But the NSA still have a station there. And that's the listening station that I was talking about. And then if you look up Red Knob or Reddish Knob or High Knob Fire Tower Lookout, that's where me and Clint was. And you can see down to all of Sugar Grove. And so Sugar Grove was huge. The military base was absolutely huge. It ran almost like it was huge. It had its own town. It's just north of Upper Track in Sugar Grove. But like I said, there's still the NSA station that's there. But they also have military housing there, and then they had a military base there as well. There is a really cool trout farm that's back there. That's great fishing. But anyway.
Well, as someone I've recently interviewed has said, there are some strange things up in them there hills. And speaking of that, it's a perfect transition. I recently interviewed someone named Ricky, and he told me about certain experiences that he's had growing up in the Pennsylvania Appalachians. And even though it's not within Virginia, the Appalachians are pretty ubiquitous. Up there, there's a bit of a difference because they say Appalachian instead of Appalachian, which is perfectly fine. It's still the same region, and a lot of the same practices still occur. So let's go ahead and get into Ricky's interview. So today on the show, I've got a guest named Ricky. Ricky reached out to me and wanted to speak about the subject, says he has lots of experience and a deep storied family past concerning the subject. So Ricky, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to Odd Virginia, brother.
Glad to be here. And like you said, I've got a long history. I come from two long lines of different types of Appalachian witches. My pappy and my pa, they were both water witches. And my mom, she can do amazing things with plants. A lot of that is just basic medical knowledge, but a lot of, as she would say, witchy woo involved too.
Oh, I like that phrase. Good rhyme. So from what research I have done, these sorts of things seem to be very common as far as the water witching and the kind of like granny witch who would use herbal remedies. And so that's a lot of what you were experiencing or have heard about or seen in your family, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And yeah, also just like healers in general, people who can do all sorts of small healing things. Witches in this sense weren't quite the witches you would have had in Puritan New England, where there were, that very orthodox religious society where things were going awry and people were being blamed. And as you know, we had a terrible Inquisition up there. In the Appalachian region, it seems that witchcraft was seen as a much more mundane and everyday sort of thing. And it didn't necessarily separate from the often Christian traditions that those people held. Whereas in, like I said, Puritan New England, it kind of mixed like water and oil.
Well, we did still have our share of quote-unquote wicked witches.
Okay. And hopefully we'll be able to get into a little bit of that, but I'd really like to hear about, first of all, just your family lineage and its experiences with this sort of anecdotal witchcraft. And, what sorts of things were they capable of, and how far back in your family do you know this goes?
Honestly, as far back as I've been able to find out. My grandpa, my pa, his grandpa's grandpa. As far back as it was written, they were water witches. The medicine woman thing was only a couple generations, about 3 or 4.
Okay, so we're looking back to as many as possibly 5 generations. And do you or any of your siblings, if you have them, have any of these or practice any of these sorts of traditional types of magic?
I don't witch for water, but I do have the gift.
So you could if you wanted to.
Oh, yeah. And as I was saying, it's a gift. It's not something you can learn, as far as I understand.
Right. Yeah, well, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with what water witching is, but for those who don't, would you like to just describe it briefly?
There are a few methods, but you get some form of dowsing rod. Sometimes it is, and traditionally in my family at least, it was an ash branch with a Y in it. Or you could use 2 metal rods bent at 90-degree angles. Like, honestly, even just an old coat hanger that you cut up in half and bend and hang off your hands. And when they crossed, or when the Y, you held the stick with the Y, and when it dipped on its own, that's when you were over whatever you were looking for, be it water or it wasn't always water. They could find almost anything. They could find water. They could find fertile soil. They could find, some said they could find gold. I'm not sure I believe that.
Do you have any?
Any gold or?
Yeah.
No.
Well, you know the old saying, there's gold in them hills. Apparently they didn't find it.
Yeah, it's still up in them, our hills.
But yeah, the water witching, obviously people use it to find water and dig wells. I have never heard of the fertile soil thing before.
Oh, yeah. My grandpappy would use it to decide where he'd plant his crops for the season. And would also be used to find, when it was, cold and everything was still dead, he would go out with his dowsing rod and figure out where the best grazing would be in the summer.
Wow. Well, that's quite awesome. I wanted to ask, did any of like the other people around, I'm not sure exactly what the community was like, but oftentimes the people who had this sort of ability would be conscripted in order to help people find where to dig their wells and such not. Was there ever like an exchange in money for this ability?
He mostly wouldn't take money for it, but if you had, say, bare jar of pickled peaches, he'd take that.
Can't deny a jar of pickled peaches.
Ain't that the truth? But yeah, he would offer his services in exchange for just day-to-day necessities.
More of a barter.
If you had extra. Yeah.
Okay. And do you have any sort of outstanding stories about the water witching? I know it's a fairly mundane practice, like I said before, and it usually just involves someone finding a place to dig. Is there any sort of time that might have gone horribly wrong or maybe a little too good?
Well, this is actually a personal story. We were seeing if I, quote unquote, had the gift. Turns out I do. Said, here, take this dowsing rod, see if you can find water. And I found the local water main.
The pipe.
I had no idea where it was. It was, yeah.
That's awesome. You didn't dig into it, did you? Bust the pipes.
We did dig it up, but we didn't dig into it, thankfully.
Okay.
We found the pipe.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Because it was like, it was buried long before my time. I had no idea where it was. And yeah, it was right where my dowsing rods crossed.
That is amazing. So have you used it since then?
It's a skill I, here and there. It's not one I'm particularly, I don't have much use for it, honestly. I don't lose things, and in this modern era, everyone has taps.
Exactly.
Almost everyone, anyway.
And that's one of the things about these sort of traditional magic practices is that we're definitely going to lose them as, things continue with the modernization as we've seen it. Like you said, everyone's got a tap in their home now. Electricity is prevalent. So all these sorts of modernizations sometimes kind of weed out those practices and make them, in a sense, obsolete. I would say it could be more of a traditional practice now than something practical.
Yeah, like I said, you can find more in water, but if you're not looking for anything, you're not looking for anything.
Right. So how about the uses of herbal remedies, as you were talking about? This is something I don't know quite as much.
Well, like I said, there are a bunch of healing plants in the Appalachians. You got mint plants. They are good for stomach issues. And if you boil them up concentrated, make an extract. It's actually mildly antiseptic. I know vervain is an emetic. It will induce vomiting. I know willow is a good aspirin alternative. Willow bark. All from my mom. Elderberry you can use to stop bleeding.
And so what would you do with the bark? Would you boil that down and drink it like a tea?
You could. Or if you were in a real rough spot, you could just chew on the bark. It would be like chewing on an aspirin.
Okay.
Doesn't taste too good, but gets the job done.
Well, I imagine it tastes like a tree.
A very bitter tree, yes.
Well, that's really cool. It's more of a an herbalist remedy kind of person, an apothecary, rather than actual what sounds like witchcraft. That to me doesn't really sound like witchcraft. Would they still call it witchcraft?
Back in the day they did.
Okay.
Nowadays it is just apothecary.
Right.
Yeah. They knew which plants could help and which plants could hurt. But there was a more witchy aspect to it, too. Like, as I said, there were wicked witches. Well, some of them plants could be used to get rid of their hexes and such.
Okay. And I know the hexen is a big deal, especially in sort of the Pennsylvania area of Appalachia where you come from, because hex, of course, comes from the German word hexen, which means witch.
It was a very big deal.
And that's where you had all the Dutch settlers for the most part, and up there in Appalachia and also out there in Amish country.
Yep. It is the reason so many porches, if you go to Pennsylvania, you'll see a lot of blue painted porches.
Mm-hmm.
That's because of the hexen. It was believed that the hex would come in through your front door if they were hexing you personally and not just your property. So you would paint your porch blue, and it would throw the hex off because it would think it was the sky.
Ah, interesting. I like the logic behind that. It sounds very practical. I also know that there's some sorts of symbols that you might see on barns up there in the Pennsylvania countryside that would also be used to ward against hexes. Yep,
that was proof they were hexing your property. There were a slew of different patterns and designs. It was a lot of them, you might notice, resemble eyes. And that was because it was believed a hex could not be cast on something that was watching.
Kind of like the idea of in India, they'll wear a mask on the back of their head so it looks like they have another face on the backside because, of course, they have big cats out there, big jungle cats, which like to be ambush predators, and they won't pounce if you're looking.
Same idea.
Yeah, that's cool.
So there was a crossover between hex repelling and herbalism as well. There were certain plants, I remember marigolds in particular, planted in the four corners of your property, would protect it from wicked spirits and evil spells.
And which was those?
Marigolds were a big one. Yew trees would, they acted as sort of, as I'm told, magical lightning rods.
Huh. So they just sort of absorbed the spell.
Yeah. And they said there was a long-standing tradition that if you had obviously this is just tradition, and we've long since proven that, okay, a big tree normally attracts lightning anyway, but
right.
If you had a big tree on your property and got struck by lightning, that was a sign someone tried to hex you and the tree saved your butt.
All right. I've also heard something. Let me know if you've heard of something like this. I believe it was rosemary in a jar put on your bedstand or at the head of your bed would also protect you from hexes at night.
Would not hexes, just wicked spirits.
Okay, so it's sort of like almost like a dream catcher, how that's used. It keeps the haints away in the night.
Yeah.
And was haint a word that was used up there? Because I've heard that a lot down here.
Oh yeah, we had our haints.
So tell me, Ricky, have you ever had any sort of experiences where something like this might actually need to be used as far as the protective types of witchcraft? Any sort of bad juju that someone was trying to put on your family, or some sort of spirit that was causing distress?
Well, I ain't confirmed it now, but I think so. See, my family home, been in the family for generations, but the eldest male child of every generation was, until we started planting marigolds and yew trees and birch trees and rosemary, the oldest male child in every generation would kill themselves.
That's awful.
Yeah. Now, it's possible that it was just, some undiagnosed mental thing, obviously, but by gods, if we, once we planted all our herbs and stuff to protect us, it went away.
You're not the oldest child, are you?
I am.
Oh, you better keep planting those herbs.
I intend to.
Yeah, good idea. Very good idea. And does anyone know where that particular phenomenon came from? That pattern of suicide amongst the oldest?
Well, there is an old family story. And again, I don't know if it's true or not, but my great, 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 great grandfather turned down the attention of someone who was known to be a hexen.
Oh, so she wanted to be his suitor.
Yes.
And she didn't take it very well.
Yeah. He had his eyes on my however many greats grandmother by then. And so the story goes, she cursed him that his oldest child, every generation, as long as the line continued, would kill themselves.
That's a hell of a story.
Like I said, I can't confirm or deny it, but that's what it was told to me.
Yeah, well, that's exactly the kind of thing that I'm looking for. A lot of these sorts of things aren't ever recorded, written down. These stories that have been handed down generation to generation, these are incredibly interesting to me. Do you have any sort of other stories that have been passed down through the generations like that regarding the subject?
Not so much for the Appalachian witchcraft, although my grandfather on my mother's side, it's a whole, obviously there's immigrants and such.
Right.
My grandfather on my mother's side, he was I don't remember what generation, Irish immigrant, and he had his own traditions that did sort of blend in, but were distinct at the same time. Instead of being Haints, it was Fae and Fair folk.
Mm-hmm.
He insisted on having specifically an iron horseshoe hung, so it was a U rather than an N, at the threshold of the door to bring in good luck and keep out, again, as he said it, Fae.
Yeah. I've actually got a bit of Irish family in my family as well. And first generation immigrant married my sister. And he's told us that, the rural folk out there and the farmers and whatnot, they will not mess with the fae folk. If there's a rock standing, you think there's a fae that lives in that thing, you don't overturn it, you don't move it, you just go around it, because they will bring you lots and lots of bad luck. They will do you some harm. And so obviously the tradition out there goes that if you hang a piece of iron above your door, then that should keep them out. Apparently they don't like iron for whatever reason.
Yeah, I never could figure that one out either, but so it goes.
Yeah, that's just how the folklore is.
There are a lot of Irish-based households, instead of using cheaper nails, would shell out for the proper iron ones.
So that would keep good luck in your home?
Yep. Keep good luck in and bad luck out.
The luck of the Irish, as they say. Obviously, they figured something out.
Given that they're still Irish around, yeah, I'd say so.
Oh, yeah, they are. So I was actually doing a little bit of research, and I recently rediscovered the story of the Bell Witch. I'm not sure if you've heard that tale.
Not specifically, no.
Okay, this is a tale that's particular to Tennessee. It's probably the most famous hexing or haunting in the Appalachian region, as far as I've heard. Really scary tale, but it starts out with things being a little amiss, seeing the family that lived out there, this is back in the 1800s, started seeing strange animals on their property, and then they started hearing knocks in their household, and neighbors and people around the community started coming in and trying to communicate with whatever was happening in this house. Obviously, there was something causing these sounds, and it was doing it all the time. So they started trying to communicate with it and pray it out. And the thing would start joining them in prayers, just a disembodied voice joining them in prayers. It would start going to church with them and speaking in church. And from as far as they could tell, it was a demon. And it ended up following the daughter of the family around and making her life completely miserable. Once she had met her suitor, they were courting for about 2 years, and she said all she could really do to make it go away was just call off the relationship. It was tons of things like that were happening in this story, and how much of it's true, I don't really know. But these stories of strange animals and spirits making a ruckus definitely go way back in the Appalachian region. Do you have anything like that you know about?
That's actually one of the things that, yeah, I'm trying to remember the story because I didn't hear it since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. But it was an old family farm, or family friend, maybe. Somewhat close to the family, at least. They were seeing weird... It was described to me as kind of like raccoons, only solid black. And there'd be a lot of crows when nothing was dead. And then they heard... It was more like not exactly a knock, but like if someone were knocking on, say, a pan outside at night.
Like someone was ringing dishes.
Yeah. And it was freaking the whole family out.
Yeah, I believe that.
And they were a very small farm, but their crops all withered too. And they called in my, I don't know what generation ago it was, grandma to come take a look, and she decided that something wasn't right. She planted I don't even remember what plants they were around the property, and it didn't end everything, but it kept it off the main property.
Sort of held it at bay a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
The black raccoon I find extremely interesting. Obviously, raccoons are not solid black. They're mostly gray and kind of a bit of a ruddy brownish.
Like, they weren't sure it was a raccoon. They said it looked like a raccoon with the way it loped and was solid black.
Yeah, very strange. I'm not sure what other animal that they might be mistaking for that. That doesn't sound natural to me, at least. Maybe there is something out there that is a perfectly normal animal, but this would line up with those kinds of stories where it's just an animal that doesn't quite seem right, doesn't look quite right in some way or another. In the case of the Bell Witch, I believe they saw a dog that looked like it had more of a, I can't remember what type of face they described it as, but it wasn't like a dog's head. It looked like a dog, though. Aside from that, just the wrong head. You know, these animals that have all of the attributes of a normal animal, except for maybe their head's the wrong thing, or doesn't have a tail and doesn't quite walk right. Things like that you'll hear quite a bit.
That reminds me of a tale from my hometown. This is one I've only heard once or twice, but it was an old story that was apparently passed around a lot. Back in the day, we had a tannery in my hometown. We did a bunch of leather work. We were right on the Susquehanna. And there was a sickness broke out. No one could quite identify what it was. Even the doctors. A lot of people died, but story went that if there was going to be a death in your family from the sickness, you would see a fox that only walked on 3 legs.
No, I think that's a really good segue actually into something else I wanted to get to, which was a lot of these sort of superstitions that you'll hear about in the Appalachian region regarding signs. The fox on 3 legs, that's the first time I've heard that one, but it's certainly lines up with the sorts of things I do or have heard. Things like if your left hand's itching, then someone's talking about you. Or if your right hand's itching, then someone's about to give you some money. Things like that. Small superstitions that are thought to be possibly prophetic in some way.
I've heard a slightly different version of the left hand and right hand itching.
Mm-hmm.
Right hand itching was you're still going to get money. Left hand itching was you're going to lose your money.
Yeah, something else it was about someone talking about you. I'm just piecing this together best I can because I had not really heard of these things before I started my research, and I don't have them in front of me. But yeah, that sounds exactly like.
Now, the way I heard it was if someone was talking about you, your ears would itch.
Okay, yeah, ear itching. That's what it was. Yeah, so there's a whole lots of those kinds of things. Can you remember any others off the top of your head?
Not about people, but I know you could use a woolly worm to determine how bad the winter was going to be. If it was more brown than black, it's going to be a pretty mild winter. If it was more black than brown, get your shovels out early because it was going to be a harsh one.
Okay.
If you saw cows all laying down, get ready for a storm.
And these, to me, honestly, don't even sound so much like superstitions, maybe only vaguely superstitious. Some of that might have a whole lot of truth to it.
It very well might, but I know it was folk science, as it were.
Right, exactly. Now, I do a lot of traveling around the countryside for my job. I basically deliver to farmhouses all day, packages. And I see a lot of cows laying down pretty much any kind of weather. So I'm not sure that necessarily is a true sign, but I'm going to start paying more attention to see if I actually notice if a storm's coming after I see that.
When all the cows are laying down too, not just one or two.
Not just a couple getting some shade.
If all your animals are laying down, hunkering down, you're in for a storm. Another sign of a storm was, in the winter at least, when you had your fireplace going, if the smoke hung low to the ground, you were going to get a storm, and if it rose up, you were in for clear weather the next day.
Huh. I wonder what it would be, what kind of environmental conditions would need to be happening for smoke to ever stay low. Because normally smoke just goes up.
Yeah. I've personally witnessed that to be true, too.
Really?
The house I grew up in had a fireplace, and we'd use it in the winter, and if it was going to be clear the next day when we had our fireplace going, the smoke just upped and away. But when we were getting like a bad blizzard the next day, and without fail we would, the smoke would hang down more around ground level.
That's very interesting. I don't think I've ever seen that. Do you have anything else you might like to touch on?
Not about the witchy aspects of Appalachian history, necessarily.
Okay.
It is more... There are a bunch of strange things up in them thar hills.
I'd love to hear all about it. Trust me, the stranger the better as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I'm pretty sure I don't know what the hell it was. It was about the size of a mountain lion, which are pretty big. Only it wasn't quadruped, it walked on two legs.
Yeah, I've heard of that before. And I've got another buddy named who, I probably shouldn't say his name for the pot. He doesn't want to be associated with that story. But he saw what looked like house cats, a whole bunch of them. And it was at night, so this really freaked him out. But he and his friend were walking around a cornfield. They saw all these little cats. And when he got close, they all got up on two legs and ran off. I can't tell you what that is either.
I do know it wouldn't get out of the woods, because when I saw it, well, at first I backed away slowly till it got up on two legs, because you don't ever turn your back on a mountain lion. That's when they'll get you. But mountain lions don't walk on two legs. When it got up on two legs, I bolted.
Was it the same color as a mountain lion?
It was pretty dark, so I couldn't tell for sure. It really did look like a mountain lion at first glance.
Most of the time when I hear stories of these cats walking on two legs, oftentimes they tend to be pitch black, which is another anomaly, because we don't, or at least we're not supposed to have black cats out around here.
Yeah, not normally. Like I said, it was pretty damn dark in them there woods that night.
So what were you doing when you saw it?
I grew up in a very, very rural area, and I was just sort of taking a hike, looking for plants, watching the stars. I was headed back home with a nice collection of herbs. Okay, most people call them weeds, being frank, but...
Yeah, potato.
Like I said, it was dark, but I heard it crunching along beside me, eventually, because I wasn't going too fast. I was being cautious because I couldn't really see more than 2 feet in front of me. And then I heard, the best I can describe it is a snarl. I turned, saw what looked like a mountain lion, and backed away, because that's what you do, and then it stood up on two legs. And then I bolted.
And how close was it when you saw it?
Oh, I probably could have reached out and smacked it if I wanted to.
Shh. A little too close for comfort. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah. Much too close for comfort. But it would not leave the woods.
Oh, that's good. Was it running after you, or was it running away from you?
It was running after me.
Oh, I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
Best I can figure, I took something it wanted.
I'm not sure what interest a cat would have in plants.
Well, I know cats like mint. And one of the plants I was picking was spearmint.
Okay. Well, I didn't know that either.
Oh yeah, cats go crazy for mint.
Did you end up telling anybody about that experience? A lot of people keep their mouth shut after seeing something like that.
I told my mom, because, like I said, she knew how to keep away the spooks. She gave me a pouch of saffron and goldenrod and a marigold. Said, keep this with you, Ricky. You're gonna need it.
And since she gave you that, have you had any experiences with weird creatures like that again?
Not coming that close to me.
So what you're saying is you have, just not within reaching distance.
I saw one, might have been the same one, on another hike after that got that pouch. It was on the other side of a field from me, and I didn't stick around to see what it was going to do. But it was a big cat, and it was on 2 legs.
So it was still out there.
Oh, yeah.
This makes me reconsider hiking alone sometimes. I really like to hike, and I don't always have someone to go with me. But I hear stories like this all the time, and I'm always wondering, should I go out on this hike? At least should I go out alone? It might not be the greatest idea.
Keep a pocket full of marigolds.
Yeah, I think I might. Anything else like that you've heard about or seen?
A buddy of mine said he saw about the same thing in the same woods. So that's probably the same thing. But that's about all I've heard.
All right.
Bearing in mind, I did come from a very small community.
Yeah, as they tend to be out that way. Not a lot of people talking to a lot of people generally. You got a smaller, tighter knit community usually.
Yeah, it was a tight community, but it was very small.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people don't talk about these sorts of things for fear of, looking crazy. But I appreciate you telling me about it, because those are some good stories, I gotta say.
I figure we're talking about odd, strange things anyway, so may as well put it all on the table.
And I think the more you know about these sorts of things, the better. Because, I mean, you've seen it. I've seen some weird things. We know that they're out there. There is always that fear of looking crazy, but the more of us who actually talk about it, the less crazy we'll look, I think.
I think so.
Well, I got to tell you, I got to go to bed pretty soon. I got home kind of late today. It was a long day. But is there anything else you wanted to touch on before we hop off?
Was one more, I guess it was a similar topic, but a friend of mine, right before his crops all died, swears he saw, it looked like a cross between a grasshopper and a wasp.
Interesting.
He only saw the one, so...
Never heard of a hybrid bug like that before. Did he tell you anything about how big it was or how it acted or, what he just generally thought about it?
It just kind of stared him down until he went away from it. And he wasn't a farmer. He just had a small garden, but in about a week after seeing that weird bug, his entire garden was shriveled and dead.
That is odd.
I told him it sounded like a witch's familiar, but...
Hey, it could be. That's got to be the first time I've ever heard of a weird bug like that. And I've seen some strange bugs myself, but I'm not sure that they're anything unusual. It's just stuff I haven't, seen before. Oftentimes you can sort of describe it and end up finding out what that bug is on the internet or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's about all I got.
Well, Ricky, it's definitely been a pleasure talking to you. I appreciate you taking the time and reaching out to me. You obviously didn't have to do that, and I really appreciate that you did, because these are some good stories.
Yeah, like you said, the traditions are dying. Best way to keep them alive is word of mouth. And it was a pleasure being here.
And we are back. So, Bill, what did you think of the interview with Ricky?
Man, some of that stuff was wild. Some of it, kind of rang home to me. My family were all hardcore Mennonites and everything like that, so they didn't use witch. It was just backwoods medicine type stuff. But it's all the same.
So witch was kind of like a no-no word in your family?
Like anything non-Christian leaning. Now, I'm not saying that witches are of the devil or anything like that, or witchcraft's of the devil or anything like that. But old-timey people, it was all a big no-no. My Aunt Ori was the healer up there. She was the kind of the doctor and the midwife for the whole damn mountain up there around Lost River. I've met people that she helped birth, and it's crazy because some of them were getting up there in age. A lot of them were up there in age. She died before I was born, but she was the midwife for that whole mountain and did a lot of the doctoring and everything up there.
Yeah, from what I've seen in my own personal research, a lot of what the so-called granny witches did was, midwifery and sort of herbal remedy sort of stuff. Not so much what you would now consider witchcraft or what they might have considered witchcraft up in New England at the time. It was a very different sort of quote unquote witchcraft, if you could call it that.
Yeah. Yeah. But like a lot of those herbal things, like the willow bark for like taking like an aspirin. The marigolds in the pocket to keep evil spirits away. That was a new one for me, but I'd heard of other herbs and plants that could do kind of like the same thing and stuff like that. But I mean, he had some wild stories, man.
A lot of that does seem to come down more to what I would call superstition. But at the same time, if it seems to work, then who am I to call it superstition?
People will take for granted that the only thing that can ever heal somebody at this point is something that comes in a pill bottle. And there's a lot of natural herbs and remedies out there that can fix a lot of things.
Certainly.
There's even like a lot of things with like psilocybin mushrooms and stuff like that being used as a natural treatment for mental conditions and stuff like that, and chemical imbalances in the brain and stuff too. But I mean, that's for another day.
Yeah, I think a lot of naturopathy is, or is it naturopathy? I'm not sure the pronunciation of the word, but
I'm the wrong one. I went to public school.
Well, a lot of that kind of stuff really does get a bad rap nowadays, and for some fairly legitimate reasons, but also at the same time, you can't completely discount it because it does have a lot of basis in truth. And this is one of those things where it feels like water and oil. You've got the pharmaceutical industry, and then you've got like the naturopathy side of things, where for very obvious reasons those things are kind of in conflict with each other. You don't really see true medicine in a kind of like corporate medicine, and you don't necessarily see the best medicine in more home remedy kind of stuff either. It's one of those sorts of things that you'd like to see merge and come to the best conclusions, but it never will. Those two sides don't talk.
No, I mean you're spot on, man. It's really like if you could bring the two together, it'd be the best of both worlds. So many people, like you said, just that's backwoods. That's just mountain BS or whatever.
Yeah.
Just because it comes from Appalachia, it just automatically gets like a negative appeal to people, because anything that's up on the mountains and stuff like that, those poor people, those are dumb people. They don't know stuff. But those people have been taking care of themselves for hundreds of years.
Yeah, poor in the pocket, rich in experience. That's what I say.
Absolutely, man. And then like Ricky talking about like seeing like that cougar and that cougar getting up on two legs and everything like that, man. But the hell with that.
Oh, I love those stories. I absolutely love those stories.
I've never seen it, but I've heard of like cats walking on the two hind legs and things like that before. The closest thing I ever had was back probably about 2004. The house I grew up in, for the most part, back in Broadway / Singer's Glen. It's like right there at the cusp. I was living there alone at the time. My father had moved out to live with his girlfriend, and we had some cats. And I woke up, I heard all this weird noise out my window. My window was like on a second story, and there's this giant oak tree there and a big branch. And I look out my window, and all the cats are up on the branch that's like level with my window, and they're all hair like on their tiptoes of the claws and hair standing up on their back, just freaking out. And I'm like, what's going on? And so we had one of those big, like, well, it's common where I'm from, but probably hard to explain. But like you had like a telephone pole, and it had a giant like floodlight on it. And it'll light up like the whole front yard and light up our driveway and everything like that. And just a big pole light because you're so far away from everything. And it had a giant halogen bulb in it. I mean, God, I think that's when they made halogen bulbs worth a damn. That thing's been there for over 30 some years, and it's never had to get replaced.
Wow.
Yeah, dude, that thing's run forever. But literally just a telephone pole, and they had like an old TV antenna hooked up to it, and a big pole light. And that's what it was there for. So I flipped that on. It was to the right of the house, so it was hitting the front yard, but the house was creating its own shadow. And I went into the gun cabinet, and it was too dark for a rifle, so I grabbed a 357 Magnum and ran out on the porch. I'm trying to see what in the hell is out here scaring the cats so bad, because like I was I wasn't 100% sure. It could have been a bear. It could have, I wasn't sure what was going on. And I hear like this heavy breathing, and like my hair stands up on my arms. I'm like, what in the hell? And like right where like the shadow line was around the wood edge, and just make out, as your eyes get used to being outside, I'm standing on my porch, and right at the shadow edge, low to the ground. But that thing had to have been, say, 4 or 5 foot long, low to the ground, breathing heavy, big body. This big black cat just keeping low to the ground, walking along the shadow line. And I could see it, but I couldn't, like, I wasn't sure what to, like, one, I was just scared to death. But like two, I just like, it was too far away and it was too dark and I wasn't sure what was going on and my brain was trying to process. I swear on whatever you hold holy, I saw a big black cat. Now, whether you want to call it a black panther, you say that to a game warden. Game warden's like, there are no black panthers. Panthers are in South America, blah, blah. If they existed, it would be a puma. And, like you start talking to a game warden, like, oh, yeah. And they're like, yeah, but they don't exist around here. But if you see one, don't shoot it because they're considered endangered. I'm like, well, what? If you guys, I swear that's a quote from a local game warden. I can't remember his name. I was, this 15 years ago because I called the Department of Game and Fisheries all about it. But like they say, if you see one, don't you shoot it because it's a protected animal. I'm like, well, if they don't exist, how are they protected animal?
Right.
Well, anything's possible.
Well, that is true. And here's one thing that I've heard time and time again, because these black cat sightings, big black cats, like you said, and you saw a rather large one, but these sightings have been reported plenty of places in North America and elsewhere. The theory is that a private collector might have had one and it escaped or was let go into the wild for whatever reason. Now, I don't think it's legal to keep one in West Virginia or Virginia.
I don't know.
I'm not entirely sure. There may be special permits. I could look that up. I'm not sure I will, but in Texas, just about anything is legal to own.
In Texas, just about anything's legal.
Yeah. Well, that's not entirely true, but there are definitely certain liberties afforded to them that you don't get elsewhere. That's for sure. I kind of wanted to hit on this just real quick because this is kind of a marriage of both of these stories, the big black cat and the 2 legs thing. I pretty often listen to the Monsters Among Us podcast. Shout out to Derek Hayes. It's a wonderful podcast, really great sound design, and it is one of those sorts of call-in shows where people tell their own stories.
Nice.
And this guy, the host of the show, he lives in Ohio, and not only did he and his brother see a big black cat, just like you did, but once they saw it, it got up on its hind legs and sprinted off on its back legs. Crazy story.
Let me tell you, if that damn thing would have stood up in my front yard, I guarantee whether it was a good shot or not, I would have emptied that damn revolver.
You go John Wayne on it?
Oh my God. No, I would have just, it's bad enough I saw it, but the thing stands up and, like, I'm good. I don't know if I just make it mad or not, but, that would have been enough for me, man.
Yeah, I can't.
As like seriously, I don't go up in the woods I don't go into my property without having some type of sidearm with me anymore.
Yeah, I wouldn't either with the things that you've told me about it.
Well, that and like mountain lions have been they've been issuing mountain lion warnings back there now.
And mountain lions are certainly a dangerous animal. When it comes to the Appalachian Mountains, people are always scared of bears and they've got their bear spray. But for me, a bear's not even close to as scary as a mountain lion, which is a stealthy ambush predator versus a big lumbering Hulk who doesn't really want to be near you and doesn't want to fight.
The only way he's going to fight you is if you make him feel threatened, or you challenge him, or you get between a sow and her cubs.
Exactly.
That's like, unless they're just like starving to death, and
or they're rabid.
Well, yeah, or rabid.
We had an attack in Waynesboro within the last 10 years of a rabid black bear.
Oh snap!
But that's extremely rare.
But yeah, no. But I mean, big cats, nothing to mess with, dude. Big cats is like a fear. Like,
yeah.
This is like, nah, I'm good.
No, for me too, certainly, because you're not going to know that it's there until it's on you.
Yeah, and they're so powerful. Like it doesn't take nothing. Like one twist of their head and your neck's broken, and that's what they go
and
for.
I mean, we're talking about like even a 50, 80 pound cat. That's half my weight. Could easily tear through me in seconds.
Oh, absolutely, man. It's the big cats are. Makes my hair standing up on my arm thinking about it right now. Not my thing.
No, not mine either. So everyone, keep your eyes on your back of your head whenever you're going out into the deep forest. But yeah, I think this probably brings us to the end of the episode. We've covered a lot. We've gone down a lot of rabbit holes that may or may not contribute to the overall subject that we're talking about. But it's been a really good time talking to you, Bill, and I appreciate you coming on the show.
Dude, I always love being on the show and helping out any way I can. Anytime you want me, I'm here, brother. Just let me know. We still got to do Yogaville, too.
Oh, this is certainly not going to be well, it's not the first. It is definitely not going to be the last time. We'll see you soon. And that is our show for the night, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you so much for tuning in. Obviously, not all the music tonight was made by me. We had a little bit of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and tonight we're being played out by some banjo music, which I don't play banjo, so don't fool yourself. It's not me. But I want to give a big thank you to Bill Del Gallo for joining me on this episode, as well as Ricky the Raccoon on Reddit. It's been a great time. Unfortunately, Bill and I like to talk. We talk a lot whenever we get together, and there's about an hour and a half of stuff we talked about that made it onto the cutting room floor. So hopefully we'll have another episode on this subject soon where Bill and I can go back over the things that didn't make it onto this episode. And if you're someone who has a story about the Appalachian witchiness, superstition, or something quite similar, please get in touch with me so that we can do another one of these. I'd love to have a round 2. You can email me at oddvirginia@protonmail.com. That is the email address, oddvirginia@protonmail.com. Please get in touch with me. Oh my gosh, I'd love to hear from you. And if you don't, well, you're going to regret it. I don't know why you'd regret it. I'm just saying you will. That's just how it is. Pretty sure you will. You and your family are gonna get the haint. Haint in the taint. That's what I say. That taint haint. Oh, goodness. Alright, y'all have a really good night. It's been nice seeing you.